1/Algebra B students. This is going to be part 4 of chapter 5.1. This is part 4 of chapter 5.1. And what we're doing is we're finding slope of horizontal and vertical lines. Remember that horizontal is going left to right. It is the horizon. So horizontal means I'm going left to right. And vertical is when you're standing straight up tall. So vertical is standing straight up tall. Okay, it's going top to bottom. So the first thing we're going to do is find the slope of a horizontal line. So what I want you guys to go ahead and do is draw this graph. So if you need to at this point, pause the video. No big deal. And then let's find the slope. Well, remember from our previous videos that slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Correct? Good. So we got to find two of our order pairs. I used 0, 4. I used this one. And I also used this one. I could have used this guy over here. It does not matter again. Just pick 2 points on the line. And then I plugged them into our formula. I said that this was x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, labeling our points, then plugging them in. And then I come up with 0 over 2. Okay, well, if you plug into the calculator, 0 divided by 2, I'm going to come up with 0. That's because anything with 0 as the numerator, meaning the top part of the fraction, anything with 0 as the numerator is going to be 0. Because think about it, when it comes to fractions, literally, the denominator tells me how many people I have, right? And the top part tells me how much I'm distributing to them, or how much of the items I have, and how number of ways I'm distributing to them. Well, if I'm not giving anybody anything, then how much does each person have? They have nothing, right? So my slope is 0. Anything with 0 as the numerator is 0. Okay? Well, let's look at the next one. So go ahead and draw out this graph. So pause the video right now, draw out the graph, and let's take a look at this. Again, slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We've got to have 2 points on this, so if I have 2 points, I'm just picked out this guy, and I picked out this guy, okay? And I said, hey, we got x1, y1, x2, y2, and then, just like we did in previous videos multiple times, we plugged it in. We said, hey, -3 minus -3, and 2 minus 0. Again, if you do not use the subtraction rule in here, you're going to come up with a wrong answer. You've got to remember the subtraction rule. The subtraction rule tells me keep, change, change. Tick, tock. Or keep, change, change. So my subtraction turns to addition. My -3 turns to a +3. So looking at this, we have -3 plus 3, which is 0. And 2 minus 0, which is 2. Okay? Again, 0 is the numerator. So 0 is the numerator is going to give me a slope of 0. Well, that's funny. Wasn't the top guy the same slope? Yeah, that's because every single horizontal line, every horizontal line in the whole entire world has a slope of 0. Every single line. If it is a horizontal line, the slope is 0. All right? And that's something that to really notice. And like here, I just have these notes like written out because this is this will, if you have this down, this will make your guys' life easier when it comes to your homework. Because honestly, when it comes to horizontal and vertical lines, I'm not going to require much math, just as long as you can justify it. So if I would have said, what is the slope of a horizontal line that passes through these 2 points? Well, the fact that we know it's a horizontal line, it's going to be a slope of 0. And if you can tell me that, if you can tell me that every horizontal line has a slope of 0, then you don't have to do any math whatsoever on it. Okay? Also, if I look at it, my y values are the same. If I look at my order pairs, my y values were the same one here. These were 4. These were -3. Well, that's cool, right? Because now I know that if I have something like this, if I have order pairs of 0, 6, and 15, 6. Well, my y values are the same, so automatically I know that this is a horizontal line. And if it's a horizontal line, my slope is 0. That is the case for every single horizontal line. Every horizontal line has a slope of 0. Every horizontal line, the ordered pairs, have the same y values. Take another instance. If I have 15, 100, and 7, 100, I don't have to graph this to know that this is a horizontal line because my y values are the same. My y values are the same. Therefore, it is a horizontal line and slope is 0. That is the case for every single horizontal line. If you look at your table, like I'm looking at right now, that is absolutely a mess, so I gotta get done. If I'm looking at this, the slope of my table is 0 because it is a horizontal line. And if I were to have this in a grid, if I were to have my apartment in a grid, the y values of my table on the grid would be the exact same thing, right? So let's look at vertical lines. Vertical lines are going straight up and down. Remember, vertical lines go straight up and down. So pause for a minute, write these notes out, and we're going to explain these. So go ahead, pause for a minute, write out the first part of this, and we're going to talk about it. Okay, so assuming you did that, let's talk about what's going on here. All right, so again, I have a vertical line. It's going straight up and down. It's not perfectly straight, so sorry about that. But imagine that it would be. Slope, again, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The 2 points that I used was this one and this one. It does not matter again. Okay, and then I said, hey, look, I have 2, 0 because I went to the right 2. I didn't jump any, so that's 0. And on this one, I went to the right 2 and I jumped 3. And then I labeled, right? So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. And then I plugged them into our formula. So we have 3 minus 0, which is 3. 2 minus 2 is 0. Well, wait. If I plug in 3 divided by 0, because fractions mean to divide, right? This is a division symbol. I come up with an error. It's not possible. I cannot distribute 3 things to people if I have nothing to distribute in the first place. Okay, it is not possible to do this. Anything with 0 as the denominator is going to be undefined. That's why this is undefined. All right, so looking at this guy. So go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and write out this situation, and we'll talk about it as well. Okay, assuming you did that, let's take a look at this. We have, again, we're trying to find slope of it. So we have slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You have got to get this in your head. Slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Looking at this, we have -2 and 0 because I chose this point right here. I went to the left 2. I didn't jump any. That's where I came up with a 0. On -2, 4, again, I went to the left 2, which is negative, and I went up 4. So that's the point on this line. Again, hopefully, straightness, my lines aren't really the greatest. So apologize for that. But then I plugged it into the formula. So I have labeled them as x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, that comes down to what's the very first thing we do when we have order pairs? You label them. So we have 4 minus 0, -2 minus -2. So that's the exact same thing as saying plus 2, isn't it? Because of the subtraction rule. Again, I've been saying a subtraction rule quite a bit today, haven't I? Yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? Yeah, I think so too. So subtraction rule tells me keep, change. So that makes me with -2 plus 2. So 4 over 0 is my answer, right? Well, think about it. 0 as the denominator. If I plug it into my calculator again, I'm going to have 4, whoops, that's 7, 4 divided by 0. I'm going to come up with an error. It is not possible, sorry for the bump on that, it is not possible to have 0 as the denominator. It's not possible. So there's an error, so therefore it's undefined. I cannot tell you what it is because it's not possible, okay? So therefore it is undefined. Well, that's pretty cool too, honestly. If I'm looking at this, that's pretty cool too. I'm sorry, I'm gonna pause this just for a second. I apologize for that. Apparently my battery is dying on my cell phone. That works, oh well. Looking at this, having vertical lines they're both undefined. Well, what are the characteristics that are similar to this? Well, they're both vertical, right? And look at their x values. Their x values are the same. So these guys have the exact same x values of 2. These guys have the same x values of -2. That's pretty cool. If I were to do tons of vertical lines and find the slopes of them doing it this way, I would still come up with the exact same answer. I would come up with undefined. That's because every single vertical line has a slope of undefined. Every single one of them. So the biggest thing to realize from those two graphs was both vertical lines have the slopes of undefined and their x values were the same. That's pretty cool, actually, in my eyes. Because what does that tell me? That gives me a shortcut when it comes to doing my homework. That gives me a thing that if I had the order pairs of 7, 2, and 7, 6, I don't have to do any work whatsoever. I don't. Because my x values are the same. And I would even tell, if this was my assignment, I would say since the x values are the same, the line is vertical. Therefore, the slope is undefined. And this is exactly what I would put on my paper. If this was a problem on my homework assignment and I noticed that my x values were the same, I would say since the x values are the same, the line is vertical. Therefore, the slope is undefined. Okay? Did I do any math whatsoever? No! I didn't, because I know from all of our experiences that we've been dealing with vertical lines, and we've showed a couple examples here, that all vertical lines have a slope of undefined. Every single vertical line. Okay? And every single vertical line has the same x values. So if I notice right away that my x values are the same, I'm done. Because I know x values that are the same are vertical lines. And every vertical line has a slope of undefined. Now, if you didn't realize that the x values were the same and you worked it out, then you would have came up with either 4 over 0 or -4 over 0. And again, since I can't have the denominator of 0, I would have had undefined on it in both cases. Okay? So honestly, when it comes to your guys' homework, if you see this being the case, don't do the math. I'm actually giving you permission. Don't do the math. Use your knowledge. Use what you have learned in here. You learned that every single line that has the x values that are the same is going to be a vertical line. And you know that to be true because we've done problems with it. All right? You can go ahead and try it out if you want to. But if you know these rules, if you know these little shortcuts, your life is going to be a little bit easier. And I'm even giving you permission. The reason why I'm giving you permission is because if you tell me that since the x values are the same, the line is vertical, therefore the slope is undefined, you're telling me a lot just within this, that you know, that you recognize the traits of the points, the similarities of the points, and you've came to a conclusion based off of your previous experiences with it. All right, and your previous experiences with it would have been your notes that you took. All right, that includes part 4 of our notes.